Hi, Jason Spangler with Cloth Talk 2.0. This is episode 10. Today, Hank and I are going to be talking about something kind of fun. We're looking at little themed collections. We actually had a hard time coming up with the exact name for this one, so it's going to be a little bit all over the place. But Hank, I'm going to let you start talking about the Carolinas Indian Seminar, and I think people will kind of catch on to what we're talking about.
Sure, Jason. Um, I I've been going to Carolina Indian Seminar for several years, and each year I would just get the patch, the staff patch, and just put them away. And after being to four or five of these, and then running into somebody that had a bunch of old ones that he was just selling them cheap, I grabbed those and decided I would start a collection. What's kind of cool about this is it's always the same shape. You can see this, it's an arrowhead. They'll have each time just a different design, but always the same theme, the arrow, and then different different clothing for different different outfits are worn at the dance. Um, and so it's a pretty cool. It's a very finite thing. It started back in the 90s, and it's still going. More recently, they've started doing staff patches. They're pretty much the same design, but it'll say staff somewhere on it. And then now they even do three: a staff and an instructor. And they have one of these cool things, a security patch, very hard to get. But most of the rest of these, from all these years, are pretty available because most of the guys that go to this are into dancing, powwow, craft making, powwow crafts. I usually do a drum making class, um, but it's a collection that isn't that tough. They're usually not that hard to find. I just saw on Facebook today Luke Jarvis was working on his collection. And one thing that's really cool about this is that it brings people in from different lodges. So Luke's in Wahissa Lodge. I'm in Solly. There'll be people there from all over, well, really from everywhere. They'll come in from the deep South, from Virginia, from we had folks there from Ohio before. So it brings a lot of people from a lot of different lodges. So it's kind of it's a neat thing to have from a different from a different section. I started going to the Mississippi Indian Seminar back in 2012. This was the first year. So being the first year of something makes it real easy to get a collection because then you just go every year and you can have a complete collection. So that was kind of a neat thing. And then as I have found other Indian seminars, like this is a National Indian Seminar from 1980, and this is a National Indian Seminar from 1978 that I found. But since I got this Carolina Indian Seminar and I was getting pretty far along with that, I just started collecting Indian Seminar. It's kind of been a neat little collection to get going, and not too tough to locate and to have people part with sometimes. So you were going to talk about one I hadn't heard of, the Galena Gathering.
Yeah, so even in the last episode, episode 9 of our show, Hank, we were talking about what people collect, and so as you just described, there's these gatherings of scouts. Could be Indian seminars, and which is a very OA-centered thing, and the event you're talking about is hosted by Eswahupede Lodge, a lodge I think in Gastonia, North Carolina. So what I want to show you, and this is actually not something I collect, but I happen to have just recently got a big collection of this in. Up in Illinois, they have something called the U.S. Grant Pilgrimage, and it's always held in Galena, Illinois. And I pulled this patch out to show you, Hank, because it shows that this event started in 1955, and it's been done continuously since then. And so it's a large gathering of scouts up in that part of the country, in the Midwest. And I could just, all day long, I could sit here and just hold up different U.S. Grant Pilgrimage patches. But they have patches, neckerchiefs, there's some medals out there. There's just all kinds of stuff that you could collect for this Grant Pilgrimage. And again, it's just an example of a gathering of scouts It's not a jamboree, not a NOAC, but something that there's a definite list that you could come up with, a checklist of what's been issued, and then go after those items. Not specific to our area of the country, but I'm sure that it's pretty popular for folks in the Midwest. Hank, you want to tell us about something kind of cool you have over in your council that is another multi-council, multi-troop event that some people might collect?
Sure. A lot of folks have been to Klondike Derbies, but I've got to say the Toe River Klondike Derby has got to be the creme de la creme of Klondike Derbies. It's been going on for, gosh, I think we're into the 20s. Well, this is the 27th in 2007. So you can do the calculation. I guess we're up to 30 something now. But the one fellow's been doing it for the last 25 years, organizing it. Some of you guys in SR5 might know Dugan. Not a whole lot of people know his real name. His name's Garrick Smith, but everybody knows him as Dugan. But he's run it for the last 25 years, and we have folks that'll come from Georgia, from South Carolina, of course, from North Carolina. But there'll be 34 patrols in this thing. It's quite the Klondike Derby. It isn't just your run-of-the-mill Klondike Derby for a district. This one actually is run by Toe River District, but you can almost call this the national Klondike Derby here. It's so infamous. Matter of fact, it has the website is klondikederby.com. So it's a fun one that I've started collecting. Some of these can be hard to find though, because they've had it for a long time and it's a little obscure. But usually you find older folks in the council, or maybe even the Georgia council, that I can find these. But it's something I've been to. Sort of like the Indian seminar, it's something I've been to and I enjoy collecting, and it brings in folks from a lot of different areas. Now, those are some, I wouldn't say obscure, but a little different collections. The one you're going to show right now about conclaves, that's one that more folks are probably familiar with.
Yeah, so Hank, you and I are big guys who've been going to the Dixie Fellowship and also the Cardinal Conclave in North Carolina for many years. And so one collection that I branched out into was trying to pick up all of the sort of legacy conclave patches that go with those. And so this collection I have here is of Area 6C patches, which would have been during the time from like 1952 to 1972, when there were 12 regions in the country, and OA lodges were assigned to different areas. And so in Region 6, which was from Virginia down to Florida, they had broken it down into groups, and 6A would have been North Carolina, 6B would have been part of North Carolina, South Carolina, 6C is headed towards Georgia, D is definitely Georgia, and then E is Florida. And so I have, personally, I have a almost really complete collection of 6A. I have a complete collection of 6B. I have a pretty strong collection of 6C. And so at some point I kind of got the idea, well, I'm 2/3 of the way there. Maybe I should continue and try to just get a complete Region 6 collection. But then one day in the mail I bought a collection and actually got a bunch of conclave patches from California. And so again, there's 12 regions. And so this was Region 12 out in California. And the thing I liked about these patches was, number one, they're OA, which I always had grown up being an OA collector, so I could connect to that. But, I had never been to a Region 12 conclave, but I know what happens at those. I can really connect to that idea of multiple lodges coming together, having a host lodge, and their totem is kind of the totem on the patch. So I decided to keep this Region 12 collection that I got, not sell it, because they're kind of cool designs. They're sort of cool classic designs. I really like Swiss embroidered patches anyways, so all of these being sort of pre-1972, they're very thick, classic, fully embroidered patches. And then I had a resource that Chris Jensen and his other co-author, Frank Dimworth, had put together, and they wrote a book about this back in the 90s. You might remember this. I sort of color photocopied the cover of this book. This was their book on conclaves. And in here, I was able to photograph this copy make and then start up a checklist of what's actually been there. So this will sound a little crazy, and this is not one of those collections I'm passionately going after, but I am sort of putting together a collection of the original 12 regions, their conclave patches. So it has a definite ending date of about 1972, and it should start in the early 50s. And the thing I like about it is, to me it represents that 20-something years of OA history, and I can sort of connect to that. I was a lodge chief and a section chief and all that, so that's sort of, and I like the patches. I think they're really cool designs. And some of them you can get really cheap. Don't tell anybody. I'm actually bidding on eBay right now on a bunch of these, and I've just won some this week for like $5. And these patches are all like, older than me. They're like 40+ years old.
Wow.
So some of them, depending on where they are in the country, there's just no interest in them, and you can get them dirt dog cheap. So anyways, that's kind of a fun side collection. And again, it fits with this theme we've done today of patches where people are going to an event, multiple councils, multiple lodges going to, and just kind of a fun event. So, Hank, I will close this out for this episode, and we'll come back again some point in the future with episode 11.